Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our webinar and thank you for joining us today. I'm delighted to welcome you to the launch of our second report in our What Workers Want series. By way of a brief introduction, I'm David Cairncross, I'm a Director at Hayes, and I'm also joined by Mark Rudd, Assistant Director for Haringey Council. After taking you through the key findings from our What Workers Want report, I'll pass you over to Mark, who will be discussing Haringey's recruitment journey. Just a reminder that you can type questions at any time during the webinar, and we'll spend a few minutes at the end going over some of these. Before we start with the main presentation, I'd just like to remind you that you can share your feedback and engage with the What Workers Want conversation on social media. Simply follow us on Twitter @HayesNews or connect with us on Facebook or LinkedIn and use the hashtag WhatWorkersWant. So this year, our What Workers Want report provides insight into what makes a successful applicant journey. The findings will help employers understand their strengths and weaknesses throughout the applicant journey and identify where they are at risk of losing talent. To put together the report, we carried out an extensive survey beginning in February 2018, which received over 14,600 responses from candidates and employers across the UK. The survey was completed by professionals from a variety of organisations, types and sizes across the public and private sector. Our report specifically focuses on what about the applicant experience attracts or detracts somebody from applying to or accepting a role across 4 key stages: search, apply, decide and join. For search, the search stage includes the role of brand awareness and employer value proposition, applicant job search preferences, the information included in job adverts and the ease of finding information about the employer. The apply stage includes applicant experiences when applying for jobs, the application method and requirements, the time this takes and the feedback and communication received after applying. The decide stage includes the structure and experience of interviews and screening, interaction with the hiring organisation, interview feedback, compliance processes and the offer process and negotiation. The join stage includes induction and onboarding processes prior to and after joining the hiring organisation and the detail and length of these processes. We've identified the key factors that determine success at each of these stages of the applicant journey, looking at what applicants believe to be roadblocks throughout. By using the insights from this report, employers can compare their application journey against the expectations and experiences of applicants, identify weakness points, and focus attraction strategies and future investment where it matters most, overall giving employers a competitive advantage in the war for talent. In today's intensely competitive market, the challenge isn't just finding prospective candidates, it's keeping them engaged throughout the entire application process to the point of hire. Based on our research, 63% of applicants at one time or another across any of the 4 stages have been deterred from completing their application, with the main contributing factor being a generally poor applicant experience. Therefore, the key message to take away this year is that first impressions matter more today than ever before. Applicants are judging all aspects of the employer and organisation, in addition to having a high level of expectation on how long a process should take and how easy it should be to apply. Applicants have certain expectations along each stage of the journey, so employers need to ensure that they are pitching these correctly to avoid losing talent. But employers are not necessarily aware of the problems along their own applicant journey. As we can see, there is an overall 10% gap in satisfaction rating between employers and applicants. 65% of employers think they are offering a good or excellent experience. By contrast, only 55% of professionals who applied to a job in the past 2 years rated the applicant experience provided by employers as good or excellent. The remainder of respondents gave a very poor to neutral rating. So there is a clear mismatch here, and employers are largely unaware of just how vital their first impressions made during the applicant journey are to a successful hire. Looking at this more closely, the applicant's rating of quality of experience declines from search through to the final stage, join. Employers, however, do not see much of a difference in the quality of experience they provide across any of the stages of their applicant journey, proven by the quality rating of employers declining by just 5% from search to join. Overall, decide and join are the worst performing stages of the applicant journey, with a 16% and 14% employer versus applicant sentiment mismatch. The biggest applicant versus employer satisfaction gap we see across the whole applicant journey is at the decide stage, which includes the structure and experience of interviews. Employers and applicants are at odds in their assessment of the decide stage. Just 49% of applicants rate their experience at this stage as good or better, versus 65% of employers, a 16% discrepancy. Overall, 84% of applicants say they've had a negative experience during this stage. Unprepared interviews at 39% and a lack of interview structure at 38% are some of the main reasons why applicants are being deterred at interview stage. Poor communication regarding the process is also a main contributor to applicant dissatisfaction at 38%. Poor experiences do not end once an applicant starts a new job, and these are impacting on the retention of new starters. Just under half of professionals say they have left at least one job in the first year because it didn't match the expectation formed during the application process. The key areas where these new starter expectations are not met were the job advert itself and training, both at 42%. Expectations from management not aligning and overall cultural fit were also key reasons to leave a role in the first year. So what do workers want from an application journey? They want employers to be transparent and authentic. They want an efficient process and personalised communication and functionality across every stage, and they want to feel welcomed. Let's take a closer look at each of these points. Today's applicant expects to be able to find out almost everything about an employer before they join. 1 out of 2 professionals won't consider applying if they can't find all of the information they require. Applicants want to see how an employer will invest in their personal development, career plan, and whether they have a public commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion. For example, if employers do not make this information easily accessible, then candidates may be deterred right from the outset of the search stage of the applicant journey. When researching prospective employers, candidates are looking for authenticity. So to learn about what it's actually like to work for an organisation, applicants turn to both current and ex-workers for first-hand insights. Employers looking to recruit are therefore advised to regularly conduct employer brand health checks, as 61% of candidates say they have been discouraged from applying to a job after reading negative reviews online about an organisation. Interestingly, however, many employers don't consider review sites and staff testimonials to be an important part of their candidate attraction strategy. In fact, nearly half of employers are in the dark about these reviews and say they are unsure or unaware of the sentiment of employee feedback online. Applicants are deterred by lengthy and inefficient processes and delays in communication. Our findings reveal a clear mismatch between employer and applicant expectations of how long the application process should take during the apply stage of the journey. Cumulatively, 71% of candidates would consider abandoning an online application once it has taken over 15 minutes. However, a substantial number of employers, 40%, have an application process lasting longer than this time frame. Employer websites are providing a disappointing experience for many applicants. 50% of applicants give a neutral to very poor rating of their experience when applying for a job directly on an employer's website or portal. The majority of those who gave these ratings, 72%, blame a lengthy process with too many requirements as the main contributing factor. While speed of process is important, it is clear communication along the journey that keeps applicants engaged. For example, 57% of applicants say it is important to receive confirmation of moving to the interview stage within a week of applying, but 36% of employers do not meet this expectation. Following the final interview, 58% of applicants expect to hear within 3 days if they have been successful, but a third of employers do not meet this expectation, taking up to a week or more. 25% of applicants have accepted a job verbally, but because of a long wait to receive the formal written offer, they have accepted another job in the meantime. 61% want to receive a written offer within 1 week of the verbal offer. Applicants are more likely to apply for a role if the process is easy and provides personalised functionality and communication. According to our findings, applicants want more personalised functionality than employers currently offer on their career websites or online portals. Desirable features include the ability to set up job alerts, start and stop their application, or create a profile. Unfortunately for applicants, less than a third of employers have these functionalities built into their online portals or career websites. What's more, 41% of employers know their career sites provide a neutral to very poor experience to applicants, but irrespective of this, over half say that they are not investing in their career site's functionality as part of their candidate attraction plan for the year ahead. Despite applicants' expectations of simple and streamlined online processes requiring fewer touchpoints with an employer, our research shows that applicants still want the option for personal interaction as part of the process. Over 2/3 of applicants say it is important for them to have contact with a person who can provide status updates on their individual applications during the apply stage. 77% say this is important during the decide stage and 89% during the join stage. The absence of such a contact person can have a negative impact on the process overall. For example, of those applicants who say they've had a bad experience with an employer's career website, 29% attribute this to not having a contact person available during the apply process. Employer feedback is also highly valued but not always provided. Over 3/4 of applicants say employers are not good at giving feedback after an application was rejected, while 66% say employers do not provide sufficient feedback following an interview, which applicants want to hear regardless of the outcome. Finally, the human element is still so important. Applicants are judging all aspects of the journey, and an unwelcoming first impression can be detrimental. From the way they are greeted at reception to experiencing the office environment, applicants are assessing all interactions with a potential employer. If initial first impressions are negative or unwelcoming, employers run the risk of losing out on talent. Nearly half of applicants say they have been deterred from pursuing a role further due to a negative first impression of the organisation, while 22% have almost been deterred. 64% put this down to an unwelcoming environment and 44% due to unwelcoming staff in particular. Almost 2/3 of applicants want to meet their direct reports during the interview stage, but only 13% of employers offer this opportunity. 59% of applicants want to meet with a recruitment consultant as part of the interview process. In addition, 46% want to meet with potential colleagues as part of the interview process. However, the welcoming process shouldn't stop once the job has been accepted. Once they have joined the organisation, new staff say the most important part of their induction is to spend time with the team. Yet only 66% of employers prioritise this as a standard part of the induction process. Failure to conduct a thorough and welcoming join process may lead to loss of the new hire, with 1/3 of those who have left an organisation in the first 12 months saying it was because they weren't a good cultural fit. This is so important when you consider that 63% of candidates say that this is the single most important consideration for them. So to sum up, a good applicant journey is key to attraction. However, our research has found that candidates are being deterred from applying due to poor experiences along the applicant journey. They encounter a few common roadblocks, including meeting with unprepared interviewers. 47% have been deterred due to a lack of preparation by the interviewer. Negative employee reviews, with 61% of candidates having been discouraged from applying to an organisation from negative employee reviews. Online applications taking longer than 15 minutes. 45% of candidates would be deterred from an online application if it took over 15 minutes to complete. And receptionists or staff that give a negative first impression. Nearly half of candidates have been deterred from a role due to a poor first impression of the organisation, and of whom 44% say this is because the receptionist or staff were unwelcoming. So our recommendations include the following. Firstly, speed up the process. As a first step, determine how long it takes to complete each stage of your application journey, looking one by one at specific components such as the time it takes to submit an online application or to respond to applicants after interview. Using this report in discussion with your recruitment consultant, benchmark your times against the expectations of a candidate to identify where your process may be falling short of expectations. As a second step, review the application requirements for applicants. For example, are you asking for information that is either unnecessary or could be provided at a later stage, thereby speeding up key points along the journey? Finally, hiring managers and HR teams should work together to create a standard protocol for interviews and applicant communication. Setting expectations around an acceptable number of interviews and agreed timeframes for providing feedback to updates to applicants will help your organisation overall deliver a better, more consistent experience. When reviewing your processes, don't forget to review not only the time it takes to complete the process, but also the communication that is going to the applicants at each interview. Ensure your process is streamlined and efficient and keeps the applicant engaged at each and every step. Secondly, invest in the online experience of applicants. While you may not be in a position to invest heavily in the capabilities of your career website or portal, there are some basic candidate expectations that must be met. First, ensure your website or portal is mobile optimized. Secondly, provide the ability for applicants to start and stop their application and to update their profiles, edit their CV, and upload additional profiles. Finally, if your online portal or site requires multiple steps, ensure it's clear to the applicant throughout the process where they are in that process and how long it will take. Overall, this should better help retain applicants until the end of the process of submitting their application. It's important to note, however, that these basic functionalities will only deliver an average experience to the candidate as a result of the advanced options that the likes of a recruitment consultancy or job boards can offer. Given the importance of the online experience to candidate attraction and the cost implications in creating an optimal solution, consider working with a partner such as Hays that can provide these important tools such as more advanced online portals and applicant tracking systems. Thirdly, create a structured interview process. Aim to create a more standardized interview process across your organization, starting by auditing your hiring manager's current interview processes. Review elements including interview structures, questioning techniques, the length and number of interviews hiring managers require. Consider using a third party such as Hays Assessment and Development to develop and support consistent assessment processes. Consider also investing in training and support for interviewers, improving your hiring manager's overall interviewing and questioning techniques. As you look to create an organization-wide standard, be mindful, however, of the nuances and requirements with an expert to help you understand what techniques are best suited to differing types of roles and seniority levels. Further training of hiring managers may be required if they are responsible for hiring for a multitude of specialist areas. Fourthly, make employee reviews part of your attraction strategy. The people and culture of an organization is the most important consideration for candidates when assessing whether to apply for a new role or not. To find out if the culture being promoted by the employer is authentic, applicants are looking to employer review sites for an honest answer. So it's essential to understand what the current sentiment is about your employer brand online. Conduct an employer brand health assessment by analysing employer review sites and conducting social media listening exercises. If this assessment is unfavourable, consider building a strategy that encourages current employees to share positive comments about their experiences, while addressing negative feedback by dispelling misconceptions and demonstrating the changes or improvements you are making. Finally, put in place a process to consistently track employee reviews and leverage the insights for your employee value proposition marketing programs. And lastly, test your journey. Like any good product, user testing of the applicant journey is key. People, time and processes are the components that have the most influence on whether an applicant could be deterred from completing their application or accepting a role. Do you know what it's like to be a new person walking into your office or workspace? Are your staff welcoming to newcomers? Do you know what people find when they search for your organisation as an employer online? Do you know how difficult it is or isn't to apply to a job on your site? You need to be consistently reviewing your process from end to end. This report provides proves first impressions really matter. So audit, assess, refine yours to present your organisation consistently in the best possible light to prospective candidates. So now you've heard what makes the ideal applicant journey, how do you go about benchmarking your candidate experience? Well, we've developed an online assessment tool to help. The Hays Candidate Journey Diagnostic is an online tool to help organisations improve their candidate experience. Our interactive tool allows you to evaluate how strong your candidate experience is against industry-leading best practice across 6 key assessment stages. Based on self-assessment and specific goals, the tool automatically provides a rating against your answers and creates a personalised report of recommendations on how to take your candidate experience to the next level. Your bespoke report will benchmark your candidate experience score to help identify what makes a winning candidate experience, how to take that experience to the next level, and areas of priority, quick wins, and ideas for continuous improvement. Calculate your candidate experience score and discover how to attract the right talent better, faster, and more cost-effectively. Access the tool on hays.co.uk/candidate-experience and start making the improvements you need to achieve a winning candidate experience. So now I'm going to hand you over to Mark to offer his insights into Haringey's own recruitment journey. Over to you, Mark.
Okay, thank you, David. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll probably spend the next 10 minutes or so talking to you a little bit about the recruitment journey that we've been on in Haringey in partnership with Hays, And it's probably only been through the last 12 months, and it's really about how we've put in a new operating model, both for implementation of permanent and temporary recruiters. So, a little bit of introduction about me. So, I'm the Assistant Director of Corporate Resources, which is a new title, so I'm still getting used to saying that. And I've probably got 3 areas of responsibility. The Shared Service Centre, which is responsible for a lot of the corporate support services, finance, HR, business support, and revenues and benefits are just typical examples. I'm also the corporate head of human resources and now organisational development, and I'm also the client manager for the shared digital service that we have with Camden and Islington. So quite a lot on my desk at any one time. And it's just worth remembering and noting that actually Haringey Council is the largest employer in the borough, and excluding our school staff, that's around about 2,500 staff. Okay, so just a little bit of background, and that slide's headed 18 months ago, but it's probably most of the work we've been doing in the last 9 to 12 months. And before I go any further, it's probably worth just mentioning that the team that we had that was previously doing our recruitment were an absolutely fantastic and dedicated bunch of people, so I don't want to think anything that I may refer to is looks negatively on them at all, because it doesn't, because they're a fantastic bunch, and actually they're still all with us, and some of them could actually be listening right now. So just a little bit of background. We had an internal team of 5 administrators doing all our permanent recruitment, which is around about 275 permanent staff, and they were also looking after the temporary roles as well, which was around about 350, but that was under a vendor neutral arrangement with Hayes. Lack of investment in our recruitment systems. We use SAP as our ERP system, a very expensive system. We haven't got a lot of funds to invest in that, so we had lots of clunky systems that didn't really talk to each other. Lots of multiple suppliers, multiple channels, multiple processes, and also a wide range of recruitment fees. That's mainly caused by the fact people would go off contract. So we had a framework contract with Hayes, but actually people would go off contract because they were allowed to do so. And we're spending around about £25 million a year on interim consultants and temporary workforce. And we're spending so I've used the word uncontrolled there, and I'll explain that a bit later in the presentation. We're spending about £1 million a year as well on advertising. No proactive candidate management, so some of the things David's been talking about in the earlier presentation, that certainly wasn't going on. A lot of the qualitative and quantitative data about where we were with recruitment, what we were doing, was not available because we simply didn't collect it. And believe it or not, our time to hire was between 69 and 172 days. And yes, I do really mean 172 days. Okay, so that middle picture, by the way, isn't me. I'm sure the people back in Haringey think it is. So really, that was the challenge for us. It was very much about the fact we had obsolete recruitment systems. We didn't invest in the recruitment systems. Lots of manual workarounds to pick up audit requirements, policy changes that Haringey wanted to do. So there's lots of sticking plasters over the top of our processes. So it was very clunky, and we didn't have any investment funds available to actually buy a new system ourselves. The multiple processes and procedures, again, I've alluded to this, a variety of different processes that were adopted by different service areas. Very confusing for hiring managers. Actually, it was very confusing for the recruitment team as well. Very inefficient, and a serious lack of compliance. No social media presence, so the things that modern candidates are used to, which is, you know, jobs appear on LinkedIn and that sort of thing. We have absolutely none of that at all available to us. I commented earlier on around the uncontrolled spend, so there was no advertising strategy at all, so managers could actually decide they want to advertise jobs in whatever publication they wanted and simply went to that publication. And you can imagine that's why we very quickly were racking up over £1 million a year on spend. And it's quite often that's where they've always advertised, as opposed to that's the right thing to do for that particular role. Touched on a little or no quality management information, so there was really just one single spreadsheet that told us this is how many candidates we got and this is where they were. very time-consuming to complete, and therefore was often inaccurate. And that led to a general perception of what was a very poor service. So the real challenge that we were faced with is that we needed to improve the service. There was absolutely no funds in which to do it. Oh, and by the way, over the next 3 years, we need to make some savings as well. So that was a real challenge for us. So we opted for a partnership with Hayes and to extend the operating model. And I think it's worth just stepping back and thinking, well, why Hayes? Because I think that's a valid challenge. Haringey had a long-standing contractual relationship with Hayes on the temporary recruitment side, although it was a vendor-neutral contract. So there was lots of good working relationships already built up between the two organisations at all levels. So Hayes very much understood how Haringey operated, what recruiting managers needed, so that was really helpful. And really there was a view from the council that we could really lever some of those contractual arrangements and then extend it into the permanent area as well. So it seemed very good that we moved into an extended partnership with Hayes. So I'm not going to talk through all that slide, you'll be pleased to know, but just to give you a quick flavour across it, really on the left-hand side there were some of the things that we wanted and the outputs we wanted from that partnership. So we're very happy for Hayes' suggestion to move to a master vendor arrangement. We knew that was probably more commercially attractive to Hayes, but actually as a result of that, and you'll see further on in some of the later slides, that actually we've got a significant increase in the quality of candidates, and actually as a result of this we've benefited from across the board savings, particularly around agency staff, of between 10 and 15% typically. So I think that was something that was quite good for us. Access to new technology. So we are very keen that we wanted access to the latest online e-recruitment technology, which will provide us with, or provide the candidates with the experience that they would expect in a modern organisation, and we would also get that real-time recruitment information that we needed. But we had no money to pay for it, so therefore we wanted someone else to invest in that for us, and equally to implement it and manage it for us as well. And we got that through the Hayes partnership. Process improvement. One of the key things for us is that we needed to have a single end-to-end owner and management of every single part of the process. So this was a real leap of faith for us in Haringey. So it's literally from a manager has a vacancy and wants to talk to someone about that vacancy and what the route is, all the way through to doing the DBS checks, the pre-employment checks, and actually issuing the contract. So that's a real leap of faith for us, and there were some real tensions in the organisation about, is that the right thing for us to be doing? And again, I'll touch on that a little bit later on. Definitely the improved candidate experience, and it goes to what David was saying earlier on, that we were keen to have a single point of contact throughout the recruitment journey. And actually, where needed, we could tailor that approach. So we were never looking for one-size-fits-all. Haringey is no different to anywhere else. We've got some very difficult roles to recruit in the children's service. Social workers are a classic example. Planners are usually another example. Where actually we said, look, we don't want one approach. Actually, we want Hayes to use their expertise and that added value that they've got as recruitment experts to help us tailor that recruitment and that candidate experience where it's needed. Online presence. Clearly, Hayes have got a significant presence already in the market, and we wanted to piggyback on that. And again, the attraction for us with Hayes is that we would get immediate access to all of that without having to build a new links everywhere. So that was really good. And actually, one of the things that Haringey is very strong on is that social responsibility in every contract we now have. And we're very keen that as part of any contract arrangements with Hayes, that we build a social value investment fund that we can use in the local community to support some sort of employment initiatives with local residents, and we're very keen on that. And actually it was very welcoming that Hayes were very supportive of that as well. Okay, so I'll quickly go through the benefits. So at the moment in sort of the temporary workforce, we've got 324 active workers, and interestingly, moving to a vendor neutral contract As I said, we've got more candidates applying for roles. So I think in the first 3 months that I think this data covers, in the 118 roles that we advertised, we had over 900 candidates shortlisted, so a significant increase. And actually, what was helpful there is we're getting a 99% fulfilment rate in the roles across the piece, which is really, really good. So that's telling me that we are getting good quality candidates, which is really good. And what's pleasing as well, that we're estimating in the first quarter, well that says quarter four, that's our financial quarter, it was the first quarter of this contract. Actually, we had audited savings of over £250,000, so that's a real benefit. So we can certainly see on the temporary side some of those promises around a shift in the type of framework that was beginning to work for us. The new technology, so we got a new platform in, and that was implemented, completely project managed and implemented in partnership with Hayes, and they provided the project managers and all the implementation, and we were there as part of that implementation team, but it was completely managed by them, which was fantastic, and that was really helpful to us. And they actually managed the system and administered the system as well. But actually, we've immediately, therefore, now got access to an online application system that is the sort of thing that hiring managers expect to see. It's starting to give us the data that begins to tell us where we can improve the service, what is going on at any one time. Have we got the relevant candidates? Is an application nearing closure? Have we only got 1 or 2 candidates? Do we need to do something different? So the technology has really paid off for us, and we got access to that really quickly. And I think from the initial get-go with the technology to actually implement it, was less than 3 months, which was really good, and it felt a really good experience as well, which was really reassuring. This, I guess, is the main slide in terms of the big change for us in Haringey. So that little blue blob of people in the middle there is what we now call the Haringey Resourcing Team. That is actually employees of Hayes that are embedded and are dedicated only to working for Haringey Council. So they work within Haringey's offices. They are, or some of them do, they are very much part of the team. They sit within HR. They wear Haringey name badges. I suspect there's a lot of people who don't actually know that they are not Haringey employees. And what they now do is that they look at and monitor the entire process. So as you can see from that diagram, they will be the people that line managers will engage with, or recruiting managers will engage with at the beginning of the process, to have those, what are your requirements? Do you really need a temporary person? Are you looking for a fixed-term agency person? Do you want a permanent person? So to really understand what those requirements are. And I think what's really keen as well is it's not just about, here's a job description that we wrote 10 years ago that's out of date, we now need you to find someone tomorrow that's really good. It's actually what's the environment that they're working in, who are they working with. So again, some of the things that David was touching on earlier on are very much the questions that we're expecting the Haringey Hub and the team from Hayes to start asking and challenge in our managers. They will take them through sort of, what is the best advertising role? Do we need to advertise? Actually, you know, are there people available that Hayes may have that they can introduce to us that actually doesn't cost us anything in terms of our advertising? Any help with shortlisting, any types of sifting, what that may mean, interview support. And then at the bottom there, as I've alluded to, that full pre-employment check. So again, here, the Resourcing Hub team, under the management of the Hayes team, will do all the pre-employment checks, all the DBS checks. They will carry that, and they actually issue the contracts and agree the start date. So it's the full end-to-end process. So we've got a single team monitoring the entire process, and a candidate has a single point of contact throughout that candidate journey. So candidate experience has been good. So the stats on here is really picking up some of the permanent recruitment. And again, the feedback we've got is really, really good. So we've so far advertised 93 roles. And I think, again, this was up to the end of March. It's probably more than this now. And again, over 900 applications have come through. So again, that's very good. much better than we had prior to this arrangement being in place. For fulfilment rate, amazingly, is 99%. Again, it just happens to be the same, and I have checked this about 4 times to make sure that's correct. But actually, the key stats for me in all of this that we're actually getting from that initial conversation with hiring managers and the Resourcing Hub team to actually getting a vacancy out, we're just talking over just 1 day, just over 1 day, and it's already out there. For people to start to look, whether it's the Hayes resourcing teams, whether it's on websites, whether it's on advertising boards, it's already out there, which is fantastic. And the time to offer has dropped to around 33 days, which is a huge difference for us. And one of the key differences for us, of course, is instead of 172 days, 33 days, which means there isn't a conversation about do we need a temp for 2 or 3 months to bring in and all the expense around that. Actually, we're doing the right things. We've got a vacancy. We're getting candidates in quickly, and we're beginning to fill those very quickly, which is fantastic. And we've got lots of really good feedback from candidates, including a director that the Resourcing Hub were involved in terms of some of the pre-employment and DBS checks, some really good feedback, which is fantastic. Online presence, I'm sure most people know about that. We've got the brand, which looks really nice when it's on LinkedIn. And obviously we're picking up some of the articles where Hayes are generating online presence for us and interest for us. And that's been really helpful and useful to us as well. And again, that social responsibility that I talked about, that investment fund, so already I think in the first 3 or 4 months, we've got nearly 20k, which will start to build towards probably a really good sum of money that we can invest in the local community, which is fantastic for us. So I guess in summary, what have been the benefits for me? I think that single route across all recruitment activity, so whether you want a temporary worker or you want a permanent worker, you're talking to the same team, you can have those really constructive conversations, and equally the Resourcing Hub will challenge back on, are you sure that's what you want to do, which is great. The Central Resourcing Hub manages in that entire end-to-end activity, and equally that is where the candidates can go, which is fantastic. Modern online recruitment system, which is, the key bit for me is that is what candidates expect. So if we haven't got that and we don't operate like that, candidates will switch off very quickly. That real visible, real line management information that we've now got, the online presence that not only have we now got, but we're building on, and we're very keen to continue to build on that around that whole value proposition for Haringey as an employer. That significant increase in good quality candidates, and we're seeing that coming through both in terms of how many candidates we'll get into interview and those fulfilment rates. So they're actually really positive. That 33, the time to hire 33 days, which is absolutely fantastic. And actually we've got those audited savings. So I've already touched on the fact that we've had over £250,000 audited savings already around the temporary workforce. We've got over 100,000 already, we believe, in terms of the permanent workforce as well, which is really, really good. So a really, really positive outcome in probably only 9 to 12 months from when we really kick this off, which is really, really fantastic. So I think that's me.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Mark. I think it's really, really interesting, hopefully bringing to life the journey that Haringey have gone on, which is an outstanding one, one we've really enjoyed being part of, I have to say. So thank you for all your time today for the webinar. I'm going to throw it open now to questions. I can see that there is one question that I'll answer straight away, which is about availability of slides. We will be sending some content round to people if you want to see it. I would say, though, that a lot of the content is actually in the report itself, in the What Workers Want report. Similarly, if you have a community of staff that you would be interested in Hayes kind of presenting some content on around the What Workers Want report and our recommendations, then do get in touch with your consultant, get in touch with Hayes, and we will see whether we're able to arrange to come and talk to your teams about it, because there's some really, really valuable information in this report. I think it's a really useful aid to recruitment in what is an increasingly a challenging market in lots of skills and professions. So, outside of that, other questions that we have? Just bear with me a moment. I think we had a couple. Bear with me for a second. Here we go. Right, okay, so just having a look here. So we've got one of the questions that we've been asked is, obviously a lot of our clients on the call today, a lot of you are from the public sector, and the question is, the application process is really long, and one of you is saying that you know that it takes over 15 minutes to complete, and that that's not going to change anytime soon. How can you ensure that you meet candidates' expectations given those restrictions? So completely understand that, and there are lots of our clients, particularly in the public sector, where it's not going to be possible to reduce that time to apply to less than 15 minutes. However, even if you can't completely revamp your applicant journey, there are some key pieces of advice that I would advise you to consider making some improvements on as per the report that we provided. So first of all, even if the process takes a long time, think about whether your applicant's got a contact person, somebody that they can engage with as they go through the process, somebody to ask questions of, just to ensure that they are suitably interested and that engagement doesn't wane as they go forward and as they take their time to apply. I'd also consider signposting during the application period, so that's probably something that I would think about, and also so that people know where they are in the process. So you often see, if you do things like your tax return form, you'll see that you have a percentage showing where you are and the bar, and it's a good idea to give people some confidence about how far through the process they are. Absolutely make sure that your portal is mobile optimized. I think that's really important, and make sure that there is some functionality for candidates to return to applications if it's going to take them a long period of time, and make sure they know that's the case. I've heard of lots of organisations and applicants where they've started applying, they've got half an hour in, they've gone away to do something else, they've come back, they've lost everything because they weren't aware that they needed to save it, or it wasn't clearly signposted how to do that. And then absolutely ensure your hiring managers and your response team respond to applicants in no longer than a week, so that even if it takes a while to apply, you can pull them in and get them engaged very, very quickly following that point in time. So there we have one question. I think we had a couple of other questions that were asked.
Yeah,
I think there was one for you.
Yeah, I can pick up a couple. So there's a question around how have we managed embedding the Hays staff into our existing workforce. So I touched a little bit on it during the presentation. So one of the things that we're really keen on, the staff, the Haringey staff, one had an option if they wished to do so to actually TUPE over to Hays and go and work for Hays if they wished. They actually decided not to do that for other reasons. But we made sure actually that nobody lost their jobs in this particular partnership. So we supported all the staff to retrain into other roles within HR, and they're all still there working for us. And we're very keen as well that the Hays team that arrived on site in Haringey were very much seen as Haringey staff. So as I think I touched in the presentation, that they all wear Haringey badges, they've all got Haringey email accounts. They've got access to all our systems, our intranet, all our messages, all the messages we get from the senior leadership they get, because they're very much part of the team in Haringey. And we thought that was very important. And actually credit to the HR team as well, that they made them feel really, really welcome over the first week or so, which I thought was really, really important. So that's really how we made sure they were embedded. And I suspect now, if you ask a lot of people, did you know these people work for Hays? I suspect a lot of people don't actually know. And actually, that's good. And that I think is the right thing for us to be doing. Yeah. And it's very much indicating that it's a real partnership. And the other question I've got is, what was the biggest challenges in embedding the new operating model? I guess in truth, the answers to these probably aren't surprising to anyone who works in local government. Probably three things stand out for me, I guess, and it's around hiring managers. And you know, certainly my experience of some of our managers is they do like to do their own thing. It hasn't helped that over the last few years Haringey has allowed them to do their own thing. So actually trying to engage with them to say, you've now got a vacancy, actually now engage with the resourcing hub, have those discussions around what that resourcing requirement looks like. Sometimes there's been a bit of a challenge, and I know the team have found that sometimes quite challenging, because it's actually the managers are just wanting to do what they've always wanted to do, and they just want to advertise in this publication because that's what they've always wanted to do. So there's a little bit around that change piece that's sometimes challenging for us. Something as well about actually persuading hiring managers to be a little bit more proactive. So we've really had a sense of recruitment has been proactive, reactive, and we wanted it to be very much more proactive. So right up front in those discussions with the resourcing team is actually, have you got a plan through the entire process? When are you going to who's going to be on your panel? When are you going to interview? You know, what are the other things that you're looking for, rather than just here is the JD. Again, touching very much on some of those messages that David was talking about earlier on, and really try and write it right from the outset that we have a plan in place. And that's sometimes quite difficult, and busy managers tend not to want to have those discussions. They just want that advert out, and they'll worry about when the interview is going to be later, and we lose candidates as a result, which is a shame. And I guess the last bit really is again just about getting managers to have those much more value-added conversations around recruitment with the resourcing team. So what candidates are you looking for? We know the technical aspects. So if you're a planner, you want a particular type of planner, particular qualifications. But what's the team they're going to work in? What projects are they currently working on? And actually to have those conversations, to really allow Hayes to really look for the right types of candidates that when they come to interview, they fit into the way that Haringey work, Haringey's values, and the type of work that we're looking for these candidates to work. So it's just really getting those hiring managers to have those more added value conversations, rather than going through those old style, here's a job description, I need someone, we just find someone tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest challenge, I think.
That's really helpful. So last couple of questions then. First of all, one of our listeners has said that they're asking about what employer feedback sites are there. You know, can we tell you anything more about that? There are quite a few of these now, and they are certainly growing up. There's more and more accessibility for potential job seekers to hear about what it's really like in an organisation. I'm just going to name a couple that of the many that are appearing. So one is Glassdoor. It's very well known. Glassdoor allows current and former staff to describe their experience working for an organisation. Look up your own organisation. You will be interested, in some cases possibly alarmed by some of the feedback that people provide, and you need to be aware of that. It gives you a great opportunity to find out exactly how people are thinking about your organisation and perceiving them, and what is out there in terms of your profile online. There is another one which is slightly different and a little bit separate, but it's one that specifically relates to graduates and undergraduates who are working in placement years. And the reason why I mention this is because it's been really effective actually for Hayes. So it's called Rate My Placement, and you know, Hayes, for example, has lots and lots of interns, undergraduates and recent graduates who work for us. We have a very, very positive rating there, and that has actually hugely driven levels of interest in coming to work for Hayes. We know that it's a key reason why some very bright graduates come to us and talk about joining us. So that gives you just an idea of a couple of the sites that are out there. Happy to take that question away as well if people want more information. So the last thing was just about this interview process. So it's kind of a combined question, which was, first of all, how do we ensure that hiring managers conduct effective interviews? And then secondly, is it actually okay to give people negative feedback after an interview? And I would say, first of all, hiring managers, I think there's a huge variety of quality of interviews run by hiring managers. I've seen hiring managers conduct their interview in the lobby of an organisation, which is definitely not good practice, and really be very unprepared for it and give it all of about 10 to 15 minutes. Bear in mind that you really do have to market your role just as much as you consider the person. So make sure you've got a structured interview process that your hiring manager's clear on. absolutely, you might want to talk to people like our assessment development team. We do support and we run training programs for hiring managers that allow them to understand and think about the sort of questions and the best approach, the sort of things they want to ask. And then also have a look at some of the content in this report, because I think there's more information in there to help you to structure your interviews. Can you provide negative feedback? I think the important point here is provide something that's constructive. I think it's really important that you give people information that they can take away and use in the future for future applications. My experience is that applicants are really unhappy if they're given no feedback at all, or something that they really, really violently disagree with, or really they can't understand is not meaningful to them in their future job search. I have had lots of conversations giving feedback to candidates where I've given them something that, yeah, you might describe as negative. I would say it was constructive to unsuccessful candidates, and they've been really positive, really grateful for that, and have felt that they have benefited from the application process even though they haven't secured the role. So again, I think that's something really worth thinking about. Okay, so that ends the questions. I hope you found today's session useful. I hope the insight into what applicants want is going to allow you to improve your applicant journey. If you want to get a copy of our report, please speak to your consultant or complete the form on our webpage, and we'd be delighted to provide you with further consultancy and advice on this topic. Many thanks for your time.